Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest who I love that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is 10 types of properties to stay away from. Now, when I say stay away from, what I mean is you will have a difficult time either selling or renting these type of properties once you have completed your renovation. What's super tempting is that these properties can be found on the cheaper side, but I warn you, stay away. Number 1, 2 bedrooms or less. Everyone just prefers 3 bedrooms. It makes life easier. If the property allows you to add another bedroom, then do that all day. Number 2, small master. And when I say small, I mean smaller than 12 by 12. The people who own the house, they just want a bigger bedroom. Number 3, a busy street. Regardless of how well you renovate a property, you cannot change the fact that it's on a busy street. Don't do it. Number 4, war zone. Crime is always a deterrent for anyone looking for a place to live. Number 5, functionality is obsolete. What I mean is the house has a horrible layout. If you have to walk through a bedroom to get to the kitchen, nope. Walk away. Number 6, no garage or off-street parking. How is anyone going to live in a house that they can't park their car nearby? Number 7, a bad lot layout. A perfect example of this is when we bought a property from a friend with a sloping driveway. We had to dump about $20,000 into the landscaping just to distract buyers from the slope of that driveway. Anyway, number 8, no commercial or mixed use, meaning if there are businesses on either side, you don't want to renovate it as a single-family home when the neighborhood is slowly converting to commercial. Number 9, and this is a biggie for me, junky neighbors. You are not going to be able to sell a house if the neighbors have tons of trash in their yard or, what I hate even more, chained dogs. Ugh. Number 10, a DIY project gone bad. If the previous owners did a ton of do-it-yourself projects poorly or try to fix items in the house without the help of a professional, it can be very costly to correct their mistakes or sometimes poor choices. So, if you are looking for your next project, keep these 10 types of properties in mind so you can choose with confidence. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us, oh my gosh, superstar, I'm so excited. We have Christy Duckett with us. She has spent the past 10 years investing in real estate. She's an award-winning real estate coach. She was my coach. She is located in Columbia, South Carolina. She has experience investing in South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, and Virginia. She does flipping, wholesaling, passive income, mobile homes, and short-term rentals. She has a psychology degree from Radford University. She is the wife and mother of 3 boys. Yes, all 3 of them are boys. She is a master of balancing the chaotic life of family and business. So welcome to the show, one of my favorite humans, Christy Duckett. Yay!
Hey, Jen.
I like how you say 3 boys. Yes, Noah, your husband, by the way, is a graduate from University of Central Florida, the greatest college in Florida, and we are lifelong friends and family, clearly because of that. So, but yes, he is a boy. So welcome to the show. And today you're going to be discussing mobile home parks, but I just saw you share on social media that you were on the news recently about 2 months ago, and it was a really important topic, and I hope you can take just a few minutes just to share with the audience what that was about.
Absolutely, Jen. And thank you again for having me. I'm super excited to drop some knowledge here.
Yay.
So we had some intel that in our city of Columbia, that they were going to put a ban on short-term rentals, or they were considering doing it, which is actually happening a lot across the U.S. in different cities. And we have a lot of short-term rentals, and we love our short-term rentals because we really believe that it just, helps families when they travel. It helps bring in money to the local economy. So when we heard that, we were really upset because there was really no truth or backing of why they were doing it. When we kind of looked into it, we actually found the gentleman that was going to put the ban, or is trying to. It's actually been pushed out a year. He owns a bunch of lower income bad rental property. It was kind of hilarious because we started researching, what does he really own? Why is he so mad about short-term rentals? So we found that, I guess, like in most cities, the idea is that people just let whoever come in. There's no qualification process. Short-term rentals are awful. So it was really just, I felt like our job to educate. So we kind of band together with everybody in the local market to go to the board meeting to really discuss why short-term rentals are great. So we're in the process of doing that. There's another meeting coming up, and it was supposed to be passed by August of this year, 2021, and it's actually been pushed out to next year, which is good news. So we're hoping by getting everyone together, getting testimonials, showing some of what we've done for the city, how we've actually, during the pandemic, when so many things have been shut down, we've actually helped local business owners also make money by referring people that are staying at our short-term rentals over to them.
And how many?
So we're hoping to kind of push that.
How many do you have?
So right now we have 9 short-term rentals here in Columbia specifically. In city of Columbia, we have 5, actually 6 in the downtown area. So what's interesting about them, some of the other ones are in Columbia, but they're outside of the city limits. So those wouldn't be affected by this ban, but the ones downtown specifically are where they're focusing.
And, I understand both sides of it, because in the Outer Banks in North Carolina, they want to cut down because it's such a vacation destination. So the workers who work out in the Outer Banks, because it's kind of difficult to get out there, a lot of them can't find affordable housing for themselves because these landlords are saying, gosh, I can make 3 times as much money by turning it into an Airbnb as opposed to keeping it. So, but then on your side, you travel with families, you have your 2 boys, and it's just easier to have more of a house situation for, when you're traveling. And so you provide that for other people, and it's, outstanding. So I can see both sides of it. And the fact that we have to provide all this affordable housing for people shouldn't be on our shoulders as well. Step up, Outer Banks, what I'm saying for that. So
I completely agree with you. And it's interesting because when you look at our area, because we're a destination spot if you're coming, for tubing on the river, coming to see a football game, because we do have the University of South Carolina here. So what's interesting is you have college rentals in these same neighborhoods that you have short-term rentals. And I'm going, that's interesting. So you're telling me a short-term renter is, that's qualified, that has to meet certain criteria to rent, is worse than 3 college students in a house. I don't know about you, but I was in college at one time. So I find it very hard to believe. So I feel like if you're going to have rules and regulations, which I'm hoping is what it really comes down to, it's more of here's the regulations within this, and this is what you have to follow. And I'm okay with that because, for us, we went back through testimonials of families. A lot are coming here. We also have Fort Jackson military base. So a lot of parents are coming to see their kids graduate. They haven't seen them in months. So it's more of a congregation place for family to come and be together. And that's really how I sell it, because like you said, we do have 2 small boys. So the option of staying at a hotel, those days are very gone. We're not all going to sleep in one room. And our 5-year-old is autistic. So it's really hard for him sensory wise to be around a lot of people are doing. So really Airbnbs are our only option of traveling. So we kind of feel like that's really important.
And we have dogs and we like to travel with our dogs. And that's another thing with Airbnbs is there's so many more dog friendly places to stay at. In fact, our Airbnb in the mountains of North Carolina, we allow dogs. We don't allow children.
I don't blame you. Listen, I get it. Like,
well, it's a 1-bedroom. It's teeny
ways.
tiny. You know, it is actually a tiny cabin. So it's 486 square feet. There's no place for a kid to run around there. But anyway, we do allow dogs. But, you know, that it's just, it provides such a need for travelers. And so I appreciate you going on and educating those of the importance of keeping Airbnb alive. So thank you very much for that. And when I say Absolutely. Airbnb, I mean all short-term rentals. I'm not, just pushing Airbnb because there's several others. So the great thing about real estate is you can go in all different directions. So yes, you have Airbnbs, a way to generate money. You do fix and flips. You do all these other things. But what we're going to talk about today are mobile home parks. And I have yet to get, or just mobile homes in general, I have yet to, venture into this area, and you have taught me so much about it. And I brought you back on the show because I want to go over it again because I think it's super important. And you do have a course that you're going to be talking about at the end, which I think is fantastic. So why are mobile home parks even appealing to people, to investors, shall we say?
Right. And I think this is such a good point. Like you said, I haven't ventured into them. But again, we talk about whatever you focus in real estate, don't be all over the place. And you do have your niche. And you talk a lot about that with your townhomes and what you do. And you know it. And mobile homes for me has kind of been like that. And it's one of these things that I found that I was just coming across a bunch of leads. And instead of chucking them to the side, it was like, is there a way to make money in these? And that's what I really kind of found out. So I think it was more so the affordability of them too. And the pandemic has really, I guess, changed my mindset on so many things in real estate because it's taught me to look at things from a perspective of anything can happen that really is outside of our control, whether it's with the virus or the governmental rulings or the shutdowns. And I think a lot of people now also it's changed their style of living. It's like, do I really need $1 million home? Maybe not. Maybe I do want to travel. Maybe this is the opportunity that's showing me to take early retirement and travel. And I could buy a mobile home and it's affordable and then I can still pick up and go. And I think it's still also with people being out of work or, income cut, it really gives them a nice place to live because we usually think of mobile homes as trailers and trashy and awful, but they're not. I advise everyone to go to the mobile home lot and look at a brand new mobile home. They're very nice. Mm-hmm. And it provides us affordable housing across the board, which is really great.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that lead to come across my desk because I'm ready for it. I just haven't been, proactively searching for them. We did look at one and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready yet. So, so tell us about flipping them. So let's just talk about a specific mobile home. What are the things that you can do with the mobile home?
Yes. So it's interesting because the ones I target for flipping and really truly flipping to a retail family buyer are the ones that are attached to land. So it's more kind of on your outset. So where you're at, you're probably not going to find them necessarily in downtown Raleigh, downtown Durham. I'll find a couple in downtown Columbia because they were grandfathered in, but the ones I really target are more so outside of the city limits. So they have an acre or two. And that's really important now because I feel like the trend of buying now is, do I have acreage? Do I have land? So the other criteria I look at is the school district, what's around there. So I really try to target an area that has a great school district that probably doesn't have necessarily the most affordable housing, but people want to live there, but a mobile home makes it affordable to buy there. So then they can live in that school district, but not have to pay top dollar, but still get their kids in a good school district and have land. So I look at the more manufactured communities. So you're probably going to see on half acre to acre lots, a mobile home, maybe 125 to 150 mobile homes in this set community, because that way I'm able to get really viable comparables to be able to flip the property. That's really important because I'm not just winging it saying, hey, I fixed this thing up nice, which I know some investors fall into that trap. My house is the nicest house. It should sell for $300,000. it doesn't matter. It's like, what is everything else selling for? So I have to look at those variables and be able to use them.
And so when people get the opportunity to buy a mobile home that is on land, correct me, there are no deeds, correct? You have to go buy a VIN number? Because it is mobile. So explain that part.
This is great. So, and this is where people go, okay, I'm not going to buy this because I don't understand it and I'm completely lost. And what makes it mobile and what makes it a house? So when you take, and I loosely call them mobile homes because anything after 1976 is a manufactured home. And they had to meet HUD guidelines. So they're actually better homes that you can get financing on. So know that when you're buying, you want to buy beyond that year. And I really try to stick to anything in like the last 20 years now. So I can't believe I'm going to say this, but we're looking at 2001 and above because we're in 2021. So
no. 20 years ago was like 1990. What are you talking about?
I know. It makes me feel so old. I can't believe that. So I look at the newer homes, one, because they're nicer and easier to renovate, and they look like a newer home when you do renovate them. When you get into some of the 90s models, they look a little just older, more mobile home-ish. But what happens is when you buy a mobile home, if it's in a park, it's considered mobile because you don't own the land. So it does have a title attached to it with a VIN number. So that means at any time you could really go in and mobily move that home. When you actually make it real property, like a single family home, you're actually detitling the property. So that piece of paper, that title goes away. And they actually take off all the mobile parts that move it and they attach it to the ground. So now it's considered real property and you're going to actually have a HUD tag on that home that says this is real property and it's going to have a deed and everything like a real house.
And these homes are built off-site and brought to a location, correct?
Exactly. Like you've probably been on the interstate and all of a sudden you see a car like coming ahead and it's blocking the whole entire interstate. It's only 2 lanes and you can't get around it and it's super annoying. That's the mobile homes. And they're usually a double wide, a lot of the new ones. So they'll come in 2 sections that they'll put together, but they're built in a factory setting. Which is also kind of nice because you don't have to look at like, what's the weather dictating if I could finish this rehab or do. It's like if you're buying a brand new mobile home, that thing is just shipped out and put together.
So true that you say that because we have a renovation going on next door and we have rain coming today. So there's no workers today. Where I'm like, anyway. So if somebody has say 5 acres of land and they want to put 5 mobile homes on it, or manufactured homes, excuse me, what do they have to do to the land to make it ready for a manufactured home?
First and foremost, go to the city or county that you're in and make sure they'll allow you to do that.
Okay.
So what you're finding is in some of the more city areas, they're not allowing that to happen. In the more rural areas, the restrictions are very loose. We're seeing that a lot. We live on the lake. And on our side of the lake in Lexington County, there's very strict regulations. If you move a mobile home, you can't typically put one back. Now, if you go to the other side of the lake in Newberry County, on that side, you can pretty much do anything, Batesburg, Leesville. So they have very loose restrictions still. So the more rural, the looser the restrictions. However, you want to find out how many mobile homes per acre can you actually put on the land. And if you do that, and it's, is it on city sewer and water? If that's not an option, you have to look at septic and well. And then you have to look at, again, what does that cost to perk the land? Can you perk the land to put mobile homes? What's your end goal with them? Are you looking to flip each home? Well, do they need to be subdivided on 1 acre lots? What does that look like? So I think first and foremost, go to the county. Then from there, it's now, again, looking at what are the comps and what's my exit strategy.
So and the reason why I'm asking this is because it is one of my goals to eventually someday create either a tiny home village or, manufactured homes would be the best way to do this. And to get, say, 5 acres of land, there's an Airbnb, a short-term rental place in North Carolina, and it's called Barkwell's. Shout out to Barkwell's. And they have 7 acres of land, and in the middle of it, they have a little lake. But then each cabin has their own fenced-in area, so people can take their dogs. The dogs can run loose in the 7 acres and go into the lake if they want to, because everything's fenced in. It's super secure for the pets. And I just want to recreate. There's so many things that I would do differently. So for me, if I could get the land, it would probably be in a rural area. I would have to add septic and well. And so you have to go through and perk the land. I get all of that. Like, how is electricity run there? Like, how does all that happen?
Right. So that again goes back to zoning, like what can happen. So it's almost like, I want to build a new house and I have this piece of land. Where do I go from here? Same process. So you would want to get with the county to see what they would allow to happen. And is it possible? Because there's a whole infrastructure, especially if you're looking at something like what you're talking about. My guess is it's all infrastructure potentially together. Maybe it's not, but just getting with the county to find out, will they allow that and what's the process? So you'll go through all your zoning to do that. Awesome. So sometimes, really, honestly, Jen, I tell people it's easier if you can find acres of land with maybe pre-existing mobile homes on it. You're not going to find the pre-existing tiny homes or those because those weren't around. But if you found a small park with 5 to 10 spaces that's kind of run down, motivated seller, you might be able to actually take that, pull all the homes off, and then reconvert it into a tiny home or small cabin community.
Let's talk about the flip side of it, of owning the land for a mobile home park community, as opposed to owning, like, there's differences with owning the mobile home versus owning the actual land, and then they rent the spots for you. So talk a little bit about that.
And I think this is probably one of the best ways to invest, being from the simple fact you don't have all the repairs and maintenance of the homes, and literally the homeowners bring their home in. You have everything set up, from the ground down.
They're going to take better care of it. They're going to take better care of it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And they're not going to default on paying their lot rent. So they would have a lot rent to you. So then you can figure out, like, do they pay me monthly just for the land, or do they pay me for the water? What does that look like? Do I supply the trash pickup? Do I supply the landscaping and they just pay me $400 a month? So technically $400 a month, you have 10 homes in there. You can make, $4,000 a month pretty much doing nothing because you're leasing the land, which is a great way to, I think that's probably one of the most passive income ways to really run a business. And I've owned it both ways. I've owned parks that I own the land and people own their homes, or I've owned the homes. And, with landlording comes headache. So it just depends on what you're prepared for and what you want to deal with, because sometimes you think, oh, I could rent the land for $400, or I could own the home and rent it for $800. But how many repairs and headaches are you going to have for that additional $800? You might end up losing money.
Good point. So one of the bullet points you have here on your, intro to this podcast was lack of competition. And myself, I'm one who will try all different areas of real estate, but this is one where I have not yet dipped my toe into the pool of mobile homes. But so explain the lack of competition. How's that work in your benefit?
It really works in our benefit. And I'm seeing more people kind of step into the mobile home market now, whether they know or not, or they just same thing, came across a lead and said, hey, I wonder if I can wholesale this, or let's just see if there's anybody out there. But I'm finding on the overall, people stay away from them because it's not as easy to get financing on the front end. So if you don't have accessible money or private money lenders, right, most people are going to stay away from them because they're going to say, well, how can I buy this, right? I'm kind of stuck. I don't have the money to purchase this. I don't have the money to rehab it. So I'm just going to stay away. But I think the lack of knowledge of people just not understanding them, they just pass on them. I mean, I find all the time people say, had I known I could do something with this. And, I'm getting more questions on coaching. It's really cool, actually. From people flipping them or buying them, or, hey, this one's awful. It's waterlogged. Is it completely done, or can I renovate it? Right. So a lot of it just comes from the rehabbing aspect too. So I think that cuts down the competition, and people tend to stay with the trends. So whatever the buzzword is, so this right now, short-term rentals, that's like the hype. That's what everybody loves. And I find that people are so excited about them. And they are amazing. Don't get me wrong. I have them, but I think it's just because everybody's talking about them.
Right.
And mobile homes have always been that, dust under the rug. It's an extra trailer. Do you really want that? It depreciates. Stay away from them. And I think that's stuck in people's minds.
So I have also heard of people who buy houses and there is a trailer or a mobile home in the back of the property, and they just want to get rid of it. So I bet there's opportunity there to find free mobile homes a lot of times.
100%. I bought one like that and wholesaled it. It's interesting. So like if you've got a great agent network or you have access to the MLS, pull up anything with a mobile home on it and just look at it. And what's interesting, I've watched in the last year, our mobile homes have like skyrocketed here in South Carolina because we have so many people moving here that people, inventory is low, just like your area. People are looking for anything to buy. And they might remove the mobile home and build. So actually, a lot of the mobile homes that are on market aren't the most affordable right now, but that still leaves so many off-market leads for mobile homes. I would tell you, if you did any type of marketing campaign, I promise you'll come across a ton of mobile homes and very motivated sellers.
Right. And I mean, what a great opportunity, especially if someone is selling their house, but then it's the peak of the market right now. What the heck can they buy? And so that would be a great step, is to get a mobile home on the land that you want and then build your dream home and then sell that mobile home.
Right. Because listen, most people are thinking raw land. I have to look for land that's land. They're not thinking, what about that mobile home that I can take off? Because again, that's not what the buzz is. And what's interesting is I'm actually coaching someone right now that has a mobile home they're going to be Airbnb-ing, which is super cool. So you kind of take that buzz short-term rental and buy a much, much less expensive property, but are still able to make the same income with the short-term rental. So I think that's going to be cool. And I think that's an opportunity people should look at.
And, like you can Airbnb an Airstream, you can Airbnb a hammock. There's these people
literally
$25 a night for a hammock, no toilet, but you get a hammock. So I wonder what the cleaning fees are.
I would love to actually hear the testimonial after doing that, because you probably do it once and then say, I'm never doing this again.
And you're itching all the bug bites on the way home. So
yes.
Tell me a little bit about the paperwork involved with mobile home parks or just mobile homes.
Yes. So the paperwork is a little different because, as we talked about, if you're buying in a park, you're using a title, which is like a car title. So that seems really confusing to people because it's like, well, how do I sell that? Do I go to a closing? What happens there? So typically, if you're buying in a park setting and there is a title involved, you can get something called a bill of sale from the DMV. And literally that's going to be sold like a car. So that again is kind of tricky because you're thinking I'm selling this asset like a car, but it is technically. If you're selling it and it's attached to land and detitled, that's going to be the same way as a single family home. So you're going to use your purchase and sales agreement. You're going to go to closing with an attorney or title company, depending on your state. And that's very streamlined. So a lot of it, the paperwork, like anything, I think sales and purchase contracts, they just scare people. That also keeps people out of real estate because it's a real contract. But a lot of these are just simplified bill of sales.
Okay. And you hit on this. You can go through an agent to find these, a real estate agent, correct?
Absolutely. And I think if you are interested, what you should do is find an agent that specializes, because I would say probably 80% of agents, maybe even more, will tell you, don't buy a mobile home, stay away from it. Right. Because again, they don't understand it. Then you find that niche, like 15 to 20% that know mobile homes. Those are your people, because they know, like anything, they know how to get them financed. They know the right people to talk to. They know the right mortgage companies, and they know the process. And that's who you want to stick with. And
same thing when flipping houses. You want to work with an investor-friendly one. So here you want to make sure that you are working with an agent that is familiar with mobile homes. So great advice there. Love that. Do you have any fun stories about any purchases that went wild or just something crazy? I'd love to hear a quick story.
Oh my gosh. I actually laughed because we did buy a park one time, and this is the importance of due diligence in buying, right? So we actually bought a park about an hour and a half away from us. And it was a fixer upper. And I thought, oh, this is good because there's a lot of opportunity, and it was very close to the downtown. Now, what we didn't know prior to, no one told us, which we actually creatively financed this one. So it was good. We owner financed it. We found out that someone had been killed in that park like 5 years prior, which, I mean, I don't know, that probably happens in houses and everywhere, right? But like you would think this was something that was disclosed, but it wasn't. And it was actually a small child that had gotten shot. It was bad. So the negative connotation around that area was still that about the park. When you said it, people still thought, oh, that's the worst park. Now, when we bought it, there were between like 15 and 20 homes in there that needed work. So immediately we were able to fix up homes and get them rented, change the name of the park, change it around. But we laughed so hard because there were two guys that lived in the park. Like they were the only people when we bought the house. Super suspect. I was like, these guys, and it was a park, and I would never recommend buying this, a park with a circle. So it was very easy, like a half moon, to drive through and sell drugs and just kind of go on your way.
Oh.
So they were paying rent on time, like clockwork, no issues, of course, because we found out they were dealing drugs. So like that was interesting to get them out. And we would laugh because this was when I was much younger and didn't have kids and no fear, right? I didn't think about getting shot or killed. I was like, who cares? We're going to collect the rent. So I was like, I got to make friends with these guys kind of, but also get them out of here. So we'd laugh because we'd go pick up rent every Friday and they would be drinking like Ciroc, like the most expensive and like a $500 mobile home. So we're like, man, they're living the high life in here. Like they're drinking the good stuff. You know, I'm in my 20s, like that's the expensive stuff, but yet they're living in a mobile home. I'm so confused. So we ended up having to finally just continue calling the police on them until we could like literally shut down their business, and they finally left. But after that, we were able to revitalize the park and like change the name and get it up and running. And then we ended up getting it up, producing income, and sold it for a profit.
Nice. Awesome. That is a great story. Wow.
Yeah, it was quite comical. I look back at that and laugh so hard because I'm like, number one, I have kids now. I would never do that again. Like, right. Oh my God, that was a really bad idea. Collecting cash, not a good idea either.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I did a badassery bestowment at the beginning of the show. Do you have a badassery bestowment you can share with the audience?
I do. And, you know, there's so many, I think, in real estate and just this business, but I think it's really important. We talk about staying in your lane, and I don't mean not venturing out into other real estate deals. And you said this, I'm willing and open to any deal, but it's so important, number one, to get educated in everything you do. Because look, like short-term rentals are the hype. They sound wonderful. Let me arbitrage this. And listen, we do it too, but know all the ins and outs. So I think it's really important to know what the heck you're doing, because you can make a very bad mistake and buy something that you could lose a lot of money on, or everything. And then also just staying in your lane. So when you start, like if you're going to be a rehabber for a little bit, be a wholesaler, like learn the process of everything and then move to the next strategy. Because what you'll find is you can be all over the place and be the most unsuccessful real estate investor that loses a lot of money. And I talk to people like that all the time.
And I'm so glad you said that, because I work for an education program now with Homeschooled by Tariq El Moussa. And when we educate the students, I mean, they are like drinking from a fire hose. There's coming from all different directions. So that is such great advice, to pick one, perfect it, and then add another tool to your tool belt. So I love that. Very well said. And I want you to take a moment though to tell us about this course that you have, because again, pick your lane, stick in it. If this is something that interests you, there's so much money to be had. It is so hard to find properties right now to renovate because the market is crazy and inventory is low. So what a great opportunity to maybe find a new lane and check this out. So tell us about the course that you offer.
So during the pandemic, I thought, okay, so again, I said I have 3 boys, which one is my husband. I laugh. And our 2 small boys are 7 and 5. And this has been a year, right? I mean, I'm not the only one who's been virtual schooling, juggling life, business, all of this. And it made me just think, like, when the pandemic hit and everything closed down, all I told my husband was, I'm so glad we have passive income properties. I'm so glad we know real estate. I'm so glad we're able to be at home. And listen, that's the dream of everyone. But the reality is, you know, not everybody can make it happen. They're working full time. I understand how hard it is to juggle finances, children, marriage, parents, you know, if your parents are getting older, everything. And I thought, like, what if I've been keeping all this knowledge inside about mobile homes since 2007? That's when I started learning about them. There's really no one out there teaching it. What if everybody just had 1 or 2 small investments that made an extra $1,000 a month, $500, whatever? That to someone could be big money, right? Sure. Like, we all aren't trying to be millionaires. Like, that's not everyone's goal. Some people are just trying to live and get by. So I started thinking, like, why is there no education out here on this? So I was like, okay, now's the time. Look, we're all home. Like, there's no excuses. I'm going to start writing this course. Let's record it. Let's do it. And that's literally what I did within the last year. Just on, mostly people think, hey, I'm going to jump into buying a park. And again, I'm like, buy one home before you buy a park. Right. Understand the ins and outs. So this is really dissecting. How can I buy one home? How can I wholesale it, flip it, rehab it? What do I do? What do I look for? How do I market? And it goes through that from start to finish.
And I just want to reinforce, because people may listen to this podcast and say, oh, I'll go out and buy, I'll use the little bit of information I got from Christy today to do this. But again, it's so important because you provide tools, you provide systems as part of this course. And having you've been my coach in the past for my other education program I was a part of, it's just so important to invest your money now so that you don't lose it later by making horrible mistakes. So how do they find this course?
Yes. So you can go to ChristyDuckett.com and everything will kind of pull up from there. And there's some free giveaways I have on there about short-term rentals and just checklists and stuff like that as well, because I know people struggle with that. But really the mobile home course is on there. So you can actually go straight to the website from there.
Perfect. And we're going to put that in the show notes so that you can click on it. And I'm telling you, everyone, if this is something you're interested in, Christy is the only one who has an education course on this. You learned from a gentleman who just wrote a book, correct? And then he ended up passing away. So tell us really quick about that guy, because he was the only one before you.
Yes, Lonnie Scruggs. He was amazing, him and his wife. He wrote a book called Deals on Wheels. And I literally found that book in my early investing days and just thought there's something to this. What am I missing? And I was able to mentor with him, and he was a coach to us and really kind of taught me the baseline stuff. And then once I went from there, I was like, well, there's got to be more to this, because his philosophy was kind of the old school way, right? Which is a lot of people, which I respect because that taught me the baseline. But I thought, now, if I can buy these and keep them as rentals, why can't I flip them or do this? So I started expanding and marketing and doing and learning.
So everyone check her out at, you said Christy Duckett. Yep,
I know. Sorry, guys. That's my married name. So it's ChristyDuckett.com.
And it's ChristyDuckett. Correct?
You got it.
Perfect. All right. So the second half of the podcast, I like to let the listeners know what makes Christy Duckett a badass, which she is, people. And I use the acronym BADASS. And so the first one is book, but I want to change it up a little bit. I want to hear, because I've had you on the show before, what is a podcast that has made a huge difference in your life? I'm
yes.
on the spot
so
here.
I laugh because I love books, but with small children, forget it. It'll take me 5 years to read one. So I do a lot of podcasts, and I did say this before, and I was listening to her this morning. I love Bethany Frankel, Just Be. So she has entrepreneurs of all types. And it was cool. I was listening to a couple this morning, and I love it because she's nitty gritty. Here's the truth. There's no fluff. And she asked the questions everybody wants to know. And I really respect that because she's an entrepreneur herself that built a few businesses from the ground up.
I first saw her on the Martha Stewart show, before
Did
she
you?
did Housewives. Because when she was on Housewives, I'm like, gosh,
she was probably pushing her product, right? Her Skinny Girl when it came out.
I have a lot of respect for Bethany. She is a hoot. I love her no fluff, no nonsense. She's awesome. So thanks for sharing. I don't even know that podcast. I'm going to have to check that one out.
You'll love it.
Yes. The first A in badass is advice. Give us a piece of advice.
So this is interesting because I've received a ton of advice from mentors and different people, but I kind of took a quote, and it's from one of my favorite people, Dolly Parton. And I know you love her too, because I know we follow the same people. She's amazing. You think of her a folk singer. Yeah, she's great. But when you look at her life and what she's done and how she's really put her message out there and what a humanitarian she is, but done it with class, it's pretty amazing. So she has a quote that says, if you don't like the road you're walking, pave a new one. And I love that because I don't think that necessarily just applies to real estate. It's life. I'm in my 40s now. So looking back 20s, 30s, there were things maybe I thought were really important that I cared about, or, I don't want to hurt someone's feelings or this and that. And now it's really just if you're not happy, it starts with you. You got to be happy. So if you're not happy where you're at in anything, change it. You are the decision maker.
I love that. And I love Dolly Parton. There's another quote, I'm going to butcher. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's, something of, do you get offended when people call you a dumb blonde? She goes, well, no, I don't get offended because I'm not dumb, nor am I blonde.
I love her. And her delivery is amazing. You can't not like her. And when you really read about her and watch her family life growing up, she came from a simple, small town with not a lot of money. And it's just a really cool story.
Yes,
she's awesome.
Yes. Dolly, if you're listening, we love you and come on my show. All right. So
yes.
All right. The D in badass is drive. What drives you to be successful?
Easiest, my husband, my family, my kids. That's it. Number one, family has always been important to me, but I think during this pandemic, it's really shown me how important family is because you're really with them. These are your ride or die, but even just my parents, my husband's family, and friends, it really is. So I think that's the push for me that always keeps me moving.
And I love watching you on social media because you just master this. I know there are times where you think, oh, my life is so hectic. You have a photo of you on a coaching call and one kid is jumping off the sofa behind your head. And, but you go with it and, they're so lucky to have you. So
Thank you.
I believe that 1,000%. All right. The second A in badass is aspiration. What's a goal you're currently working on?
So within this pandemic and just life in general, it's really balancing life, marriage, and business. It's really hard because you want to be the best at everything you do, and that's not possible every single day. And as I said, my 5-year-old was diagnosed with autism about 2 months ago. So really my focus has become on him. So that requires, kind of stepping back on some other things that I might have thought were important that just aren't that important. So I think I always struggle, and I think a lot of people do, with just finding the balance.
Right. Well, you are one who will find it. I know it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The first S in badass is systems. What systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
So this year, specifically in the last couple of months, I've tried to get back on track. We talked about that this morning with working out and doing. I've struggled a little the past week, but I found working out used to be like a pleasure to me. And now it's like the last thing on my list. So I have to make a priority. So time blocking and using a calendar and really sticking to it. And I like to know what's going on, but I don't like to be held to this specific time of where it's at, because that's just not how life works. And then that almost derails me if I don't stick to it. So for me, it's really just putting those things in place and time blocking and knowing they're on my calendar and making it happen.
So one of my coaches told me recently, because I would block, a specific time to work out. And if I overslept, I'd be like, oh, I overslept, so let me go on to the next hour. And but my coach told me if it was important enough to put it in your calendar, it's important for you to move it to later in the day. I was like, oh, damn you.
I love that. And that's so important because sometimes we feel defeated when we didn't do it. You're like, I'm a loser. I didn't get up at 9. Well, forget it. The day's blown. I'm just going to eat everything in sight. Instead of just saying, hey, maybe now I'll just walk 30 minutes and call it a day.
Yep.
And that's so true.
Yes. All right. The final S in badass is success. What does success mean to Christy Duckett?
Just being happy. Like I'm at a point in my life where it's like, I used to think happiness, and this is interesting because I was talking to my sister who's 5 years older than me, and we're built to work hard, achieve. I mean, that's just my father. So it's been ingrained, all these not necessarily good things, because what does that really achieve in my mind? Success? I don't know. Am I happy? Not really. I'm just exhausted and overburned and spent. So really, I think my goal future forward now is just to be happy and stop thinking about being successful all the time. Just be you. Do what makes you happy. Don't worry about what makes your mother happy, your father, your friend, or whoever else, because if you're happy, ultimately everyone else will be, and do it for yourself. And I think we spend so much time trying to please everyone else. And I'm one of those people that taking a step back this last year has really been great for me, for mental health, for everything.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being on the show. You always come loaded with content, and I know the listeners appreciate it. So thank you, Christy. And that is all. Thanks for listening. We will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.